much to do on the YouTube, so they curate a list for you. Do you want to watch your favorite creator or have a chat on Discord later? Well, you better get hip to Indie Left. Indie Left. IndieNews.Network.
Don't tell me that his audio didn't work. No way, that didn't just happen. Okay, well, we'll have to fix that in post. That's great. Well, this is Indie Left. Welcome. Welcome to Friends of Indie Left, this show, and thank you so much for being here and checking this out. I'm really excited about the show, which I thought would be a great way for all of us to learn more about the people whose work and analysis we amplify regularly in Independent Left News, in leftist.today, and even in our Discord server, independentleft.gg. The idea behind creating the show is that we want to learn what makes these awesome people tick. There's a reason why we include their content in our aggregator site, and we want you to see what we see. And I think a lot of times you do, and that's why you're here. And without further ado, I'm going to give him a kick-ass intro, but I will reveal who is here. Wait, hold on. Let me see. Can we turn on a chat here? Turn on a chat. Turn off a chat. And here we go. Ron Placone, welcome to Friends of Indie Left, dude. Wow, I've got a lot I want to talk to you about. First of all, thank you for the theme song. It's awesome.
Of course.
Everybody loves it. I get, I use it on every video for every day and all the updates that I put out there, and I use it as the theme song for How Did We Miss That and for this, and people smile when they hear it. And now we got someone who's going to be working on some post-production and doing it up to see what else we can add to it. But I also wanted to thank you because I was just independent left.news until you made this theme song. And now I became Indie Left. Like, literally, you named me Indie Left. I had to buy a domain name.
I didn't realize that. That's funny. I didn't know that. I thought it was always just Indie Left, and that's why I made your theme song accordingly.
No,
I mean,
it's great.
Independent Left wouldn't have really fit the melody, so
no.
I'm glad you liked it.
Oh no, I'm so glad you did. And look what ended up happening. It's so great. Again, really appreciate that. So I did have some questions for you, but again, introduction. So Ron Placone is a comedian. He is a writer. He is a performer. He is an actor. He's done. I think you've even done some like sketch stuff. Like artists and drawing and that type of stuff. No. Guitar, music. That's right. You play music. He's a musician. So
I make fun theme songs for people. Yeah, and I rewrite some protest songs and update them, and it's fun. But yeah, I can't draw to save my life, man. I couldn't. If you told me to draw a nice picture like right now, I wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, my kids ask me to draw nice pictures all the time, and it's just not a good thing. I wanted to ask about you and streaming because I didn't I knew you kind of from Jimmy and from watching the Jimmy Dore show before, but I wanted to ask when you started streaming and I started following your channel I think in the beginning of pandemic or so. How long have you been doing a YouTube show before that?
Well, I did stuff on YouTube off and on like for many years, but I would kind of do something and then I would, end it or take a break, or I would just kind of post a stand-up clip and then do nothing for like a year. So, as far as how long have I been doing like Get Your News On with Ron, I think I started that show in 2018, and it was just sort of like a fun little, just sort of a stream where I would just kind of talk about the news of the day that was important to me. And when it first started, it was very, really kind of grassrootsy and off the cuff, where like people would tweet me stuff that they wanted to talk about and I would just kind of respond to it in real time. But that got to be like a little just kind of a little much to stay on top of. So, the kind of concept of the show has morphed some over the years. And, now it's just a show where it's just all the things that I think are very important that should be talked about. And most of these things are often not talked about. So, in my theme song, because I wrote my own theme song too for Get Your News On with Ron, it goes protest politics and digital rights, climate change, MMT, and we love strikes. So those are a lot of the things that I talk about. I talk about digital rights a lot, which is a very underrepresented topic. I feel like there's not a lot of people who cover that. I cover climate change, which is covered to varying degrees out there, and I do a segment on MMT once a month, and then of course workers' rights, protests, strikes, stuff like that. That's kind of my wheelhouse. That's not the only stuff I talk about, but those are the main bullet points.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I've been watching the show for again about year and a half. We've been sponsoring, and you do an awesome trailer at the beginning, a little bumper at the beginning of every show where you kind of hype Indie Left, and you do have a channel in our Discord. I'm going to show you that at some point, maybe if we have some time. But yeah, everyone's talking in the chat. They love the roommate skits and all of.
Thank you.
The political roommates is great. That we've seen that on YouTube, on Instagram. Those shorts, they're great. We saw Fiorella, I know was in one. So
yeah,
you got fams coming in.
Yeah, she played Denmark. She was, and that was like a little over a year ago when we were really on lockdown. So we kind of did all that remotely. Like I recorded everything remotely at my apartment, and then she just sort of, I emailed her the script and I just kind of gave her some direction, and she just kind of did it on her own, like completely remotely, and then sent it to me. So that was fun.
Yeah, those were great to watch, and I again appreciate you doing those. And they were. And you cut those, and you did a lot of the production yourself, because that was something I actually wanted to ask you about. Was like, how do you navigate all the tech? Because I noticed that you seem to have a pretty decent skill when it comes to all the technical stuff.
Wish.
No, so
you say that.
You have a producer or someone that helps you cut all that stuff, and editor and.
No, I don't. So my buddy Joseph Sakata, he does some some basic stuff. Like he'll edit, like if I need a clip here or there, he'll do that. And then he makes thumbnails and stuff like that. So he helps me out with a little bit here and there. As much as I, can afford to pay him to do so, basically. But as far as like the political party roommates and stuff like that, I just kind of edit all that myself in iMovie. I mean, it's very basic, bare bones editing. I wish I was more tech savvy and kind of dressed up my clips a little more, and I probably should, but yeah, I'm not the most tech savvy guy in the world, but I can do enough to get like a little basic goofy sketch done, I suppose.
Well, your streams sound awesome. They look great. The videos and clips that you put together look incredibly professionally produced. So whatever you're doing, keep doing that. And if you do need help, I know that there's a whole big fan base that does have tech skills you can always tap into, and they're more than willing and happy to step up and do that. I know my co-host. It's kind of funny, you talk about Get Your News On with Ron and some of the topics, and or last year I was actually inspired to start a show with this guy Reef who runs the Jimmy Dore Discord server, unofficial, but so he's my co-host for the show, and we do the same thing. We talk a lot about labor, we talk a lot about environmental stuff, we talk a lot about corruption, we talk a lot about economy and economics. Not as much MMT, though we are both versed in MMT and friends with the real progressives and support MMT. And I think is it Jeff Epstein that you have on? I think that's your MMT co-host.
Jeff is Jeff I've known for a little bit. He was the first MMT guest I've ever had, and then he also on my theme song he does the high harmony, like that. I don't know if you've ever heard like the Get Your News On with Ron theme song, but
Sure.
there's a high harmony there, and that is Jeff's voice. So yeah, he at one point, I don't know how it came to fruition, but he just mentioned, doing just a monthly MMT centric segment. And I said, yeah, that sounds cool. I mean, I find MMT very interesting. And I've read Debt and I've read Stephanie Kelton's book. I'm not, I'm not like super a connoisseur on MMT the way some people are. Um, Nor am I'm not one of these people where I take any one idea and I go, this is the holy grail that will save us all. Like I'm
Right?
not that guy when it comes to anything, really. I mean, I guess the thing that I'm most passionate about as far as what I cover is stuff like municipal broadband, city-owned internet, and
Hmm.
net neutrality and stuff like that. But even that, I'm not one of these people who's if we get municipal broadband all over the country, every problem will be solved and we'll all have wings. I know that's not the case. But it would be a helpful thing in our society. I do know that. So, but yeah, I do a monthly MMT segment, and it's a lot of fun. Jeff and I have some really fun chats around MMT.
Yeah, it would be a helpful equalizer. I agree for the community broadband. That also, I literally got a call from a neighbor today and asking about mesh wireless broadband, and they're getting terrible. There's residents are asking them about it all over town, and and it's exactly what we need. And there's a monopoly in my town, actually, in half of my town, where there's only the cable company you can go to. So a municipal option would certainly be amazing for competition's sake, for improving everything. And you've even got fiber optic that potentially could come in, that the monopolies got locked out because they've got friends in the city government. So that's the other thing I really like that you talk about a lot is that you support and promote people that are running for local office. And I know you've talked about kind of national politics, and I'm kind of right where you are, that's something, unless you got $1 billion in the bank, or a super PAC, it's going to be really hard to get the ear of a politician that's a national politician. And so I'm with you on focusing on mutual aid and focusing on local politics and focusing on making a difference with your neighbor next to you, and helping the people next to you that need the help, for sure. I had to ask because somebody did ask me for my Patreons, but the Red Berets, and I saw that you were a signature captain recently. They just actually announced that they were doing a super PAC. I didn't know if you had anything. Have you talked about that? Did you hear about that yet?
I heard that the doctor is starting a pack. That Dr. Joe Jarvis. That's the extent of what I know about it.
Hmm.
I haven't looked into what exactly they're doing, or what all is around that. I mean, I know that the whole Washington folks. I've done their theme song,
Right.
and I support a state by state effort to try to get single payer healthcare. I think the end goal, of course, is federal policy, but I think that the state by state approach is a noteworthy way to try to get there. And for all the reasons that you just mentioned, we have a lot more power locally, and even at the state level, than we do nationally.
Hmm.
And if someone's going to just have a federal or bust approach, um, you know, we might be waiting a very, very long time, potentially indefinitely. And people don't have that luxury. So,
Yep.
while a state by state approach is not perfect, there are some flaws with it. And I recognize those flaws myself. It is still a noteworthy approach. The bill that we have here in California, AB 1400, it would save the state billions of dollars on healthcare costs, and it would insure everybody. So there's literally no reason not to do it. And if a state like California or Washington or New York or wherever else, Vermont, if they get it and other states see how it works, well, then, there's a couple things that get accomplished there. One, the insurance companies get crippled in that market. They no longer, can kind of operate what they do in a big customer base like California or New York. So it weakens their power.
Mhm.
And two, it also will hopefully lead to some federal legislation, because other states will see how efficient it is, and other states will get it, kind of similar to cannabis. We're on our way to federal legalization of cannabis.
Oh, I hope
um
so.
Yeah, well, I think it's inevitable at this point. And so, healthcare could be a similar journey, kind of like what Canada went through, where it's like one province, excuse me, got it, and then the rest of the country did. So, it's not the most glamorous way to get there, but it's a noteworthy way to get there, and it's worth pursuing, as is straight up federal legislation. But the reality of that situation is, you know, how many people are going to vote for it when push comes to shove in the House and in the Senate? I mean, so many people are against Medicare for all openly, or they're for it when it's convenient, but when push comes to shove, they won't show up. So
Yeah, it's one of the toughest issues, and again, there's the fighting on all fronts, and I've talked extensively with the whole Washington people. I've talked extensively with the MMT and the real progress, the federal. It has to happen from the federal level because they issue the currency and
right.
they guarantee it. And I get both sides of it, and I'm not smart enough to know the answer. Honestly, I'm just going to support everybody in every way they want to be supported, right? Because we're all fighting for the same goal, right? I think that's where you are too.
No. I agree with you 110%. The one thing I would say to that though is I don't see how they have to be conflicting ideas. At the end of the day, it's all just a means to an end.
Yep.
And whether we get there one state at a time or whether we get federal legislation right away, as long as we get there, I'm happy. You're happy. I mean, that's the goal at the end of the day. I think that in a situation as desperate as this one, where we are light years behind every other industrialized country in the world, and it's by design. Everyone knows a single payer universal healthcare system would be infinitely better. Everybody knows that. But the insurance lobby has our country by the balls. It's
Yep.
always been that way. So, this idea that we can be picky and choosy over how we fight for it, that's nuts. I'm sorry. That is nuts to say like, well, we can't go this method because it's a little less than ideal. This is an emergency.
Yeah.
This isn't some freaking hobby. This is an emergency. People are dying. There are people fighting on the ground floor for healthcare right now that if something doesn't change, they're going to die soon. They have conditions. They cannot get their medicine. They're going to die. And you want to say like, well, the state by state approach is, but like, come on. And by the way, just for the record, people because sometimes you get some of the more, I guess, dogmatic personalities about this whole thing that say like, well, it completely conflicts with MMT. Stephanie Kelton herself has said that the state by state approach is a noble approach. Stephanie Kelton herself has spoken highly of that. It has nothing to do with MMT in many ways, as much as it has to do with a means to an end. A state by state approach is a means to an end for federal legislation, which of course we need because of things like MMT.
Sure. Yeah. I wanted to also ask, I know we don't have that much time, but I wanted to ask about crypto platforms because you were one of the first people on Rockfin. You've got an amazing following on there. I saw you've got one of the largest followings of the lefty streamers, which again, you've worked really hard to talk about Rockfin, to promote that platform, invested time, and I'm thrilled that it's paying off. And I've also, in full disclosure, I got into Ray tokens. I was again a Graham supporter for a long time, and again, everybody on the platform is just fantastic. Richard Medhurst actually got me into it a long time ago, about a year and a half ago, and so I wanted to get your take on the censorship, on moving to crypto platforms, on how important it is, and giving people advice on setting up those alternate methods of revenue, those alternate methods, so you can't be shut down. I know you've had times when they shut down your YouTube channel. So I'd love to hear you talk about that a little bit and give some advice to people that are starting their own channels and platforms. That would really be great.
Sure, man. I mean, I don't know how great my advice would be, but yeah, I mean, as far as you mentioned censorship, I've been saying the same thing for 5 years. I will probably say the same thing for the rest of my freaking life because issues like these don't really change. I think that all digital platforms all, platforms like YouTube, whoever it is, Rockfin, whoever else, should follow the free speech laws of the United States. We have free speech laws. We've been tweaking them, working them for many, many years. There are legal experts and scholars dedicated to this type of work. We have free speech laws. They exist. They've always existed. This whole thing where it's like, what do we do for these platforms? Should Mark Zuckerberg and his friends decide what is and isn't news? How could that possibly go wrong? Gee, I don't know. It's not that freaking hard. We have free speech laws, and there should be a digital bill of rights where people need to follow the free speech laws online, and they need to be followed, and no one should be censored unless they violate a free speech law, just like in regular society. It's that simple. Been saying the same thing for 5 years. I'll say the same thing for the rest of my life because I have a feeling nothing's actually going to change. So that's that. As far as like people, starting their own shows or channels or whatever, my advice, and take it for what it's worth, just do what you want to do and put out the stuff that you want to put out. There's a lot of kind of gimmicky things that people can do. And if that's your thing, by all means do it. If that's not your thing, then don't do it. I mean, I definitely spent some time, especially as I was figuring out, the show that I was trying to put together, where I kind of started doing the things I thought I had to do, instead of the things I really wanted to do. And I wasn't having as much fun. So now, my show's called Get Your News On with Ron. So you get your news on with Ron. And it's the stuff that Ron, who is me, really thinks is important to talk about. And the guests that I have on are people who bring something compelling to the table, or they're talking about a topic that I'm interested in. Like today, I had a guy on who is building Earth ships. I'm intrigued by Earth ships. I wanted to learn more about them. So I had him on. And I think that's, that's stuff that interests me. Will that interest everybody? No. But it'll interest some people, and I hope they'll listen and get something out of it. So I guess my advice would be, just kind of do what you want to do, because at the end of the day, it's like you're not reporting to anybody. So you might as well just make the most out of that and enjoy it. I've gotten all kinds of feedback, positive and negative, of people saying, well, you need to do this and you need to. And I'm like, no, I don't. I don't need to do anything. And the thing you just mentioned, I don't want to do, so I wouldn't be enjoying it. So let someone else do that, because maybe they'll like it, and that's great. And people who like that thing, well, there it is. It's available to them. The people who like what I'm doing, well, here I am. I'm available to them. And then we can just all get along on this crazy thing we call the internet.
Right? People actually doing shows on stuff that they want to do, and not having to cover the stuff that they don't want to cover because they don't want to cover it. I mean, I hear that all again. Why aren't you covering this? Or people get mad that I've got this person or that person included in the newsletter, or that I'm platforming or amplifying. That's my favorite word. You're platforming. I've got a newsletter that I share some YouTube links of and some articles of people that I like, and I think people should see too. Like I'm right there with you. And then of course, I'm a big fan of stand-up comedy. Me and Reef watch a ton of stand-up. I want to ask a little bit about the crossover between politics and comedy, and the kind of like I see it as, look, going back like to Carlin, and it's been a great bullshit detector. I noticed, people who go out on the road specifically, they have to, you deal with hecklers and all kinds of stuff. And I think that almost prepared you a little bit more, maybe, for the YouTube world and dealing with the trolls that you get sometimes, right? On YouTube.
I never thought about it that way, but yeah, that's interesting. I honestly never thought about it that way, but yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it. I like that.
You're quick on your feet, so sometimes you have to improvise on stage. Like, I just see a lot of crossover and a lot of similarity. And again, you guys are like mixing it up, and you've got to make the everyman laugh in a dark room where you can't see their faces. So it's like, I think you're doing all right. Again, we've been supporters of what you do for a while, and we're going to continue to be. So, yeah, well, all right. So I've got two other questions. One was about the People's Party. Are you still involved? Are you? I think I saw you were an elector in California. I know they're getting on the ballot. How does 2022 look for them? Any?
I wish I knew. I mean, I don't know the exact status. I believe, yeah, they are getting on the ballot here in California and a couple other states. As far as my personal involvement, I mean, I've always said to Nick, I'm like, look, anything I can do to help, let me know. I was on the advisory council. My understanding of it is that we were basically just placeholders, and we're either in the process or it's already happened of being replaced by actually elected people, which is the way it should be. I mean, those types of positions should be held by people who ran for them and were voted in. And I have openly said a number of times, I am not running for anything. I do not like electoralism. I do not want to be involved in it very much at all. I'm only involved in it in ways where I feel like I would actually help. And for me to kind of, take an actual position when there are people on the ground floor doing the grunt work of getting on ballots, of building a movement, that's not really my place to do so. But when Nick approached me to kind of be a placeholder, and in particular, he told me he wanted somebody to help frame, their kind of perspective on digital rights, to kind of, write what it means to stand by digital rights and net neutrality, municipal broadband. That was something I was eager to do. And I said, yeah, I'm more than happy to do that. I'm more than happy to, talk to any People's Party's candidates about those issues to help frame their perspectives. So, they know what municipal broadband is. They know the ins and outs of something like net neutrality, and they're ready to speak on it. That's something I'm more than happy to do for, honestly, anyone who would ask me to do it. So yeah, that's my involvement. And as far as like, if they, run candidates, I will try to help to the best of my ability. I mean, anyone who's trying to kind of change the status quo and break up the duopoly is a friend of mine. I support what MPP's doing. I support what the Greens are doing. I support what the PSL's doing. I think at the end of the day, if we want to have any real electoral power, every single third party lefty movement will have to get under one umbrella. I don't know which umbrella that will be or what it will look like. And I don't know how to accomplish that exactly, because if I did, I would have tried to have done it already. But,
Right?
I mean, there's a lot of people, we have a lot more in common than we don't have in common. So, it's time to kind of figure out a way to unite under one umbrella. That doesn't mean we have to agree on everything. That doesn't mean we have to just, sing Kumbaya every day. But if we can kind of like come together as one sort of working front, be it in the form of a political party or just a workers movement, kind of similar to what happened right before we got the New Deal. That's the only way we're going to see any substantial wins, I think. So I know I kind of took your question in a number of different ways, but that is my involvement, and also just how I feel in the bigger picture of things. And by the way, that's what attracted me to the People's Party in the first place. I mean, I was at the Convergence Conference in 2017. I
Mhm.
saw everybody from, Greens to environmentalists to the DSA to the YDSA to the SA, to people running locally, to just, regular activists with Extinction Rebellion, to podcasters, to creative types, to musicians, to comedians. Everybody was just sort of gathering, realizing that something drastic needed to be done to change the status quo in this country, and to change the status quo electorally in this country. And, I think at the end of the day, that is hopefully still the goal, even though, there's been a lot of quarrels and a lot of bickering. And, I try my best to navigate those waters just like everyone else.
Yeah. Yeah, it's it's shark infested waters out there, especially in the content creator on the left game at the moment. Everybody seems to be wanting to get into debates and snipe, and it's been a bit of a challenge. And I have to laud and commend you because you're kind of everybody's friend, and I kind of you're neutral in that way, and I totally respect and admire that, and I try to be that way in a lot of ways. To where, look, it's about the issues. It's not necessarily about the personalities, and I think we're all in agreement in on a lot of the issues. It's where we don't agree on the approach, and we've got to work that out and figure out what the best approach is going to be. Um,
Well, I
like a
think
force
about
to
it this
vote.
way. Oh, sorry. I think about it this way, man, and I'm not a mathematics expert, but I think I know enough that I feel like this is the right way to be. If you are a left leaning person, like whatever that means to you, like if you identify as a socialist, communist, anarchist, or just like lefty or whatever label you want to throw at it, but if you are a genuine leftist, a left person in the United States, you are still part of arguably the smallest group politically. And if we're, let's say, maybe about 10% politically, there's still about 90% of the country we need to try to convince to agree with us and to try to see why these policies would make where we live a better place. I'd rather focus on winning over those 90% than tearing each other in that 10% apart just because we don't agree on every single thing. You're not going to find someone that you agree with 100% of the time. But if there's people out there and it's just like on 90% of things we're aligned, why would we spend all this time tearing each other apart over that other 10% instead of trying to find more people to kind of come over to our side? You know, I mean, of course, there are some asterisks in a statement like that. I'm not saying that there aren't certain ideologies that are certainly beyond the pale, but I'm talking like other left-leaning people who have good intentions and mean well. We just might not see 100% on every single thing. Tearing each other apart, I don't see the point in that. I think it's a waste of bandwidth and a waste of energy. And honestly, dude, I find it really fucking boring. So I want no part in it now or
Yeah,
ever.
yeah. Again, like, look, we're there. There's so much stuff to cover, and so many things that are happening out there to fight against corporate duopoly, to fight against the machine that's actually. Again, what I agree with what you're saying. I'm with you there. Again, it's just a hard it's a hard road to navigate. You got
Sure.
there's a lot of noise out there, and again, that's why I commend you for cutting through that and just kind of staying focused and doing your thing, and I appreciate you doing that. I did again. Reef did ask because he runs the Door Discord, and people in the Door Discord, they're all patrons. They wanted to ask when you're coming back to the show. They do miss Ron on the show, so they wanted to put a plug in and hope you're coming back soon. I know you're kind of on hiatus and on break now from there, but did want to just put that in.
Well, I mean, thank you for that. And yeah, I mean, it's I mean, people people get really caught up on these things, and I have seen people have tweeted stuff like that at me and stuff, and I really appreciate it. And everyone always asks these questions like, are you and Jimmy enemies now? And it's just like, no, we're not. We're not enemies, not at all. I still got a holiday card from the guy. So thank you for that. I appreciate that sentiment. But right now I'm kind of doing my own thing, and Jimmy's doing his own thing, and that's the way it is right now.
Yeah, you got a movie coming out. You're producing the Dollop with Dave Anthony, right?
I'm
That's
not producing it.
yeah.
I'm not. I'm
Are
not
you writing
producing the
for it?
dollop. I write for the dollop sub, yeah, which has been a lot of fun. Yeah, I've written a couple episodes alongside Dave, and yeah, that's been a blast. That's a really fun podcast. That's I it's funny, man. I don't really consume content via YouTube that much because I mostly, I consume stuff when I'm like running around the beach usually. So the only podcast I really listen to is The Dollop. now I listen to it in a more like a more scrutinizing way, because I like I'm writing some for it. So like I'll listen to stuff that I wrote, and I'll be like, okay, did this work well for Dave, and what should I have done differently, how should my approach have changed, or if something went really well, I know a lot of people like the Brooks Brothers episode that they just dropped was really well received, and I did a lot of the writing on that one. So I'm like, okay, what did I do right there? Why did people, we kind of caught lightning in a bottle. I feel like, how did I play my role in that? So I listened to the Dollop. I listened to Richard Wolff. I
Mm.
listened to a podcast called Krista Makes a Podcast, which is a podcast by if anyone's into music, it's a podcast by the lead singer of Less Than Jake, and it's all about songwriting and music, and I freaking love that podcast. And then I listened to a couple podcasts about screenwriting too. I'm not going to like go into a bunch of details there because it'll get like too insider baseball and hyper nerdy. But yeah, I listened to some screenwriting podcasts, and yeah, so that's kind of where I get my content. So I mean, when you were bringing up how I kind of stay out of I kind of stay out of the drama and the bickering, and you mentioned that about me, which I appreciate you mentioning. Part of the reason for that is not only because I have no interest in it, but also because I'm not even hip to most of it. Like I really don't, because again, the stuff I listen to, I just told you. So
Right.
people will be like, Ron, did you hear about what so and so said about so and so? And it's just like, no, I
No.
didn't. I didn't hear about that. Sorry. I mean, I know people have even said stuff about me that I never heard about it. Did you hear that? And I'm like, no, I didn't. And if they know me and they got an issue, they should drop me an email or say it to me. I don't know why they said it on his show or whatever. They know how to reach me. But such is the world we live in. There's a certain there's a certain professional wrestling aspect to it, and I have no interest in that. Professional wrestling actually takes physical skill too, by the way.
Yes, it does. And those guys, it's scripted, but they get hurt, and they throw their
They get
body into
hurt,
all
man.
kinds of stuff. And man,
No
you
disrespect to professional wrestling.
you watch
man.
The
I got nothing but
Wrestler?
respect
Holy
for it.
moly! Mickey Rourke just did that such justice at the end.
He did such a good job, and it's so. I mean, a lot of those guys have that story where it's like they kind of got ripped off. A lot of them, that they never really got the compensation they deserved, or life kind of got in the way, and they had a rough fall from grace. And yeah, it's a bummer, man.
Yeah, yeah.
I know a lot of comics who kind of who are kind of that way too. That were
Well,
kind of had Mickey Rourke's life.
oh my
So
God.
I know a lot of them. It's been a rough couple years too in that regard. But
Oh
yeah,
yeah, yeah, it's closing all the clubs, and yeah, they had to figure it out again. Like we're big fans of like Bert and Tom and the Rogan guys, and just again trying to support stand up comedy in every way we can. I like Tom Pye. Comedians hate when I talk about when you talk about other comedians, and I'm not going to do it to you now. You've been super respectful with your time. I told you it was going to be a half hour, and you gave me more than that. And I just want to say thank you again so much. Anything else you want to plug? I know you've got that movie coming out, so please, anybody, go to Patreon wherever you can. Can you talk about the movie a little bit?
yeah, totally. I'd love to. And thanks for having me. This has been a really fun chat. So thank you, and thanks for what you do. I mean, it's cool that you have a platform for people to find different content. And I don't know why anyone would give you shit for who you do and don't include. I mean, you're just kind of making a list, you're just doing your best. And from what I've seen, you cover a lot of you cover different perspectives. So people who may feel one way or another, they're going to find something they connect with. So I think that's the cool thing to do when you're curating a list of news.
Yeah,
So kudos to you. And as
thanks, man.
far as other stuff, yeah. So if people want to join my Patreon, patreon.com/Ron Placone. And I do make theme songs for people. I've made theme songs for podcasts. That's something that I do on a regular basis, which is a lot of fun. I've made theme songs for couples. It's been a gift for people. So I do have to mention Valentine's Day is coming up. a personalized theme song does make a cool gift. And you can get that over on my Patreon for a give what you can level. So whatever level you're comfortable giving, whether it's $1 a month or more, you get all the perks, which is like my patron streams once a week. I do Zoom shows just for patrons regularly, and I'll make you a theme song. And there's all kinds of other like videos that aren't available anywhere else, and stand-up clips and stuff like that. That's all for a give what you can level. Sometimes people order more than one theme song. You do get one included with your Patreon. And if you want like a second one or however many, usually people just kind of pay me extra for that on just a la carte basis. But yeah, patreon.com/Ron Placone, if that is of interest to you. And my movie is called Left at Wall. It's a movie. It's a movie that is loosely based on what happened with the GameStop stock and the Robinhood app. It's based on that. It's a fictional story. It's not a real story, but it is loosely based on what happened. And it's about two brothers. And I play the main brother. And then my brother is actually played by Gareth from The Dollop. So he's playing my brother. And yeah, we dropped the trailer, and you can go on my Twitter. It's my pinned tweet. You can just go at Ron Placone. You can also find it on my YouTube channel, Ron Placone, or Rockfin Ron Placone. You can find that movie trailer. We are crowdfunding some of the resources to pay for the film. So you can go to GoFundMe.com, type in Left at Wall. That's the name of the movie, Left at Wall. And you can watch the trailer. If you want to make a contribution to help get the film made, that'd be phenomenal. If you can't, totally understand. Just please do share it out. Let your friends know. That goes a long way. And I guess I will mention this because you never know who might be listening. We are still on the lookout for some formal investors into the film. So if you are somebody who has the type of means where you are interested in investing in an indie film project, we are on the lookout for some of those. So yeah. You can email me about that if that is of interest. ronplacone.com is the best way to get in contact with me. And that's where you can find the movie trailer. You can find it on all social media, like I just mentioned. And please do check it out.
Thanks, man. Actually, some of Ron's links are in the description now. I've got the Patreon, the Rockfin, the Twitter, and one of the other ones. But I know that you're also on Instagram. Ron's everywhere, man.
I'm Ron Placone on everything. I make it easy. And then also, I guess the last thing I'll mention is I got some tour dates coming up. I'm going to be in Los Angeles February 10th. If there's any local LA folks, come out February 10th. Tickets for that are on sale now. And then I'm going to be in the Northeast in April. So I'm going to be in Pittsburgh, Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, Burlington, Portland, Maine, Boston, and New York City. So doing a nice little Northeast Canadian run. I'm calling that my Poutine, not Pipelines tour. And so I hope to see you then too, for everyone who's in those cities. And all those tickets are available now at ronplacone.com.
Right, and you said that the patrons also can get hooked up with a meet and greet, right? If they end up coming to a show locally. I thought I heard you say on one of your streams.
Of course. I mean, you don't have to be a patron for that. I mean, I do a meet and I'm always, after our stand-up shows or my stand-up shows, I'm always around after selling t-shirts and happy to talk to anyone who wants to talk to me.
Nice.
Whether you want to buy, if you want to buy a shirt, that's great. But even if you don't, or you're not able to, please come say hi. So yeah, I mean, I do, meet and greets are always just part of the show. So yeah.
April 25th, New York City. Where are you playing?
Baby, April 25th.
Where are you playing in New York City?
Broadway Comedy Club.
Broadway Comedy. Okay. My bachelor party was at the Comedy Cellar, so. Oh
really?
I'm gonna do what I can to make it out for that, and maybe we'll bring out the IndieNews.Network, and we'll make it an INN trip.
That sounds like a blast, dude. I look forward to that.
For sure. Again, I really appreciate your time, and just thank you so much for all you do. And I'd love to do this again sometime soon. Maybe we'll get Refin next time. He'll join too. He's a fan, and we watch all your stuff. And just again, keep doing what you're doing. Really appreciate you, and really appreciate you coming on today. And thank you everybody for coming and chatting. Friends of Indie Left. Have a great one.